Hi, my name is Teresa Valentino, and I'm back today with another, excuse me, DIY mental health tip for your Survivor Pro Tip series. Just another idea that you can add to your Savvy for Survival. I did another video about despair in which I talked about Natasha Kampusch and being held in a dungeon. She was kidnapped at age 10 and then held in a dungeon for 8 years and tormented in every sort of way. And so I think Natasha, the extremity of her experience and her success at surviving is really teachable for all of us. I really appreciate her leadership in coming forward, and that's a large part of why I decided to come forward and start doing this series too, because just how beneficial her discussion of her experience was for me. So this video is going to be about long and short-term mental health goals and how to set them. Anybody who's even thinking about such a topic is probably on track. And again, I recommend that you get a qualified, competent therapist as soon as possible. And another little bonus pro tip, the perfect therapist for you is probably not the first, second, or third one that you meet, maybe. It could be. You could get lucky. I've gotten lucky a few times. But a lot of the time, you have to kind of think of it as almost like speed dating. So anyway, if you are working on your long and short-term mental health goals, I can tell you that over the years I've discovered that they're basically the same thing. Like, you have to start setting small, tiny little achievable goals for yourself just to make it through each day when things get past a certain point. And so the basic ideas to start with in that are, if you are in a pre-gratitude state, like I've been talking to a lady named Sandy who wrote me on my astrology blog. We have a lot of similar issues, and she's kind of in a little pre-gratitude stage, and I totally understand that. I was in that stage for decades. If you are angry all the time, if you are in persistently negative relationships, or you have negative conditions, like where you live is not really safe, or where you work is kind of abusive or whatever, or if you're just tearful all the time, then this is the sort of situation where I do recommend getting into therapy, getting qualified help. It's like, it's kind of almost like having a combination doctor and lawyer when you get a good therapist. It's like somebody who's always on your side and can see angles and opportunities that you may not be able to see. And then you just need, beyond that, you just need to start really small, right? And my basic 1-2 step for anybody who's just really beginning this mental health recovery process, or just starting to take the reins of their own life in a better way, is to think of it in terms of two things. One, you're going to start with cultivating a set of ground rules for yourself, developing a set of baseline minimums for how relationships have to be. Like, some of my baseline limitations at first were, anybody who tells me I am too sensitive, or that I'm anybody who tries to minimize whatever I'm saying or dismiss my complaints or concerns, they gotta go. Anybody who I feel bad about myself when I'm with them or after I leave them, they've gotta go. Anybody who lies to me or manipulates me, they've gotta go. You know what I mean? Because these are just things I don't like in my life. They're things I don't do. I can't afford to have emotionally abusive or toxic people in my world, because my situation was maybe not as extreme as Natasha's, but certainly extreme enough in my own way that I just didn't have it in the mental health budget to put up with this kind of crap. That's really sort of how I thought about it. Like, I have X amount of mental health resources to get through this month with, so I cannot afford this person and their nonsense right now. And so that made it easier for me to set up my own set of ground rules. I've just given you some of mine. I would love to hear what some of yours are, or should be, or that you would like to have. I mean, not should, but things that you would like to see in your own life that I maybe didn't think of or mention. Please put those in the comments below. I'd love to hear about that. But basically, yeah, the long and short-term mental health goals are kind of the same thing, because you need to start where you are. So you need to start from the now, which can be really hard to do when you've been extensively gaslighted, as many people are in many different ways. And you will find that taking control of your immediate moment, your now moment, is really the fundamental thing that lets everything else be right, that lets you bring everything else into focus for yourself. So it's kind of a little counterintuitive, because you may be thinking about, well, I need to not be triggered as I go around in the world. I would like to stop having flashbacks. I had a therapist one time try to set a goal with me that I would that I would stop hearing voices or seeing things that other people don't see. I wish I could do that for you, Shug. I really do. I'd love to set that as a goal, but I don't see it happening. I mean, my whole life I've been trying to see the world the way that other people do so I could fit in better, and it's just not happening. And at this point, I'm actually much better with it. I've seen now sort of the way that other people live, and it doesn't appeal to me that much, honestly. I feel much better because I've built myself a happy world. I got myself out of despair. So I have a lot less despair in my life, even though my conditions are not as good as a lot of people's maybe. But I have much less despair in my life than the average person that I see walking down the street. And I think that's an enormous gift and a blessing that I'm here to share with you. So, you gotta be in the now, start where you are, and that's another little, very sort of two-step process, okay? Starting where you are means you need to give up a thing they call subjective distress, which is, I'm upset about the fact that I'm so upset, okay? Like the fact that I'm having this mental health breakdown and that I need to start watching mental health DIY videos and going to a therapist and all this is upsetting to me. It's upsetting to me that people have done violence against me, which was totally inappropriate, incorrect, and sucked. And that makes me mad, and there's nothing else to do with that except go ahead and be pissed off because they're not sorry and there are no consequences except for me just having to sort through it, right? So that's subjective distress. You know, that's a choice. That's the thing about subjective distress is that if you're distressed by the fact that you are experiencing something, you can choose to just stop being distressed by it, okay? I did that with tinnitus. I have this howling in my ears like all the time. And I just decided to stop caring about it because it's like being in a North Korean prison, I guess. You know what I mean? You just better stop caring about it because it's going to happen and play itself out the way it wants to. You have no control over this past your internal experience of it, right? So I just switched that thing off. And it's kind of what Natasha had to do in that dungeon in Austria, too. She had to find ways to like stop caring about that annoying sound of that fan rattling as it died in the ceiling where she couldn't get out of there. So this is the thing. It's like most people are walking around in the world having like small, low-grade annoyances, but it's a lot of them, and they don't really know what to do about it. So on some level, I'm grateful that my stuff got extreme enough that I was able to see that, oh, hey, I need to sort through this. So that's one way out of your subjective distress. And one way that you can start working towards the pre-gratitude, because I realize a lot of people are not ready to feel grateful to their abusers yet, and I totally get that, believe me. But so once your first part of your step to being in the now and marching forward to your own personal Garden of Eden, you're going to give up your subjective distress, and then you're going to give up judging. Those are the two things that you can those are choices that you can give up. Judging leads to subjective distress a lot of the time. When you are judging yourself in the situation, like, why am I still so upset about this? Why is it still so easy to trigger me? What the hell? Haven't I done anything yet? Why am I still having these problems? I should be beyond this. All of that is judging, and all of that creates a big fat pile of subjective distress. So don't judge your experience, just have it. That will be a big part of my approach to anhedonia, but I'm going to do that in a separate video, and that's one of our PTSD symptoms where we kind of just don't have it in us to participate in things that we enjoy in. It's sort of like a whole life impotence, but that's for a separate video. So basically, for long and short-term mental health goals, I want you to think about those as being the same thing, because it's just being a master of a moment again and again and again and again and again, right? And when you can just think about it, instead of thinking about it, I would like to stop having flashbacks. In 5 years from now, I would like to be a person who never has a panic attack, something like that. That stuff is all like a road to more subjective distress and judging. So what I would like to have you think about is practice, hey, I can be the master of my moment now, right? And then just practice remembering to do that. And the more times that you remember to do that, the more that becomes a pattern and a habit and a pattern and a thing for you. And then you can find your way out. I'm assuming you're not watching this while trapped in a dungeon, because he definitely wasn't hooking her up with internet access down there. So, you know what I mean? If Natasha can do this, you can leverage her leadership. You know, it's kind of like I don't really understand football, but I think they're all just like, I'm over here, so I have an angle, you can throw it to me, and then I'll go there, and then we can make angles together, right? And that's how we can all pool our leadership and our insights. So I hope that helps you a little bit with thinking about your long and short-term mental health goals and how to get started on your road to the happier life that you'd like to have. I hope that you're as inspired by Natasha Kampusch and her success and her survival as I am. And please, by all means, I'd love to hear from you. Comment, rate, subscribe, and check out my blog at teresavalentino.com. I'm adding new content and new videos and hopefully more writing pretty soon. And you can get a free copy of my upcoming book, Dear Jimmy, What a Child Trafficking Survivor Wishes You Knew, which will be for free until, I want to say, October 15th of 2018. And then after that, it'll be out on Amazon Kindle. Thank you for stopping by.